hope everybody's had a good day. Should be another chill wind down of a night. Um, uh, just another chatting about books. This time we're doing Ogre Enchanted. Um, so before we really get into it, this is this one's kind of special in a weird way. So it's by one of my favorite authors. But it's not a book I'm actually familiar with. So this is another first time read. But I kind of came into this one knowing what kind of things I'd be expecting. I've read from this author's works before. I love this author's works. Like, unironically, one of her books I own is Falling Apart. I got it from a summer reading program at the library when I was a kid. It's held together by like the barest bit of binding glue and like raw love and willpower. It's one of those books that I've looked into getting a new copy because it's falling apart and I continue to reread. But I can't bring myself to replace the old one. Yeah, I'm a sentimental sap like that. So this is a very special one for me. Can you hear me okay? Is the music too loud this week? I realized last week it was inaudible, so hopefully that's fixed. I think everything's working. All right. So with that, yeah, I hope everyone's had a good day. For some of you, I know it's not super late, but this should just be a nice, relaxing time. That's the goal of it every time. It's not something stressful. It's just books. It's having a good time. Sorry, testing my tracking because it's being a little funny. Let me try to fix that right quick. It doesn't like my microphone. Better? Maybe. You'll have to tell me if it's not good. I can try a test right quick. Hang on. Okay, I think that's working right. I think that's working right. So let me pull up this, and then I need to, oh, not sneeze. I need to not sneeze. Okay. Ta-da! Yes. Is that? Yes, okay. Alrighty then. I do hope everyone's having a good day. Again, I don't own any of these. I may gush and fangirl a bit more this time. Like I said, I am familiar with the author. I knew going in that I was probably going to like this one. Um, so the bar was set high for me, but it was also easy because, yeah, I don't own the copyright to the books. Um, so this is just for information and entertainment. For Ogre Enchanted. And that did nothing. Why did that do nothing? Better? Better. Alright. So this is Ogre Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Gail Carson Levine. I found out in the course of putting all this together that she's had another book come out that I haven't read. And now it's like, well, I need that one too. So, yeah, this is really nice. This is really sweet. So the boring details. It is published by Harper, which is a HarperCollins imprint, in 2018. It is not part of a series, technically. So this is where Gail Carson Levine doesn't. She doesn't really do series. So she has several books that take place in the same world. This is one of those. It's a companion to Ella Enchanted, in that it takes place in the same world and specifically in the same kingdom of Frel. However, unlike a series or like direct sequels, as you think of direct sequels, this you have no need to read any of the other books that take place in the world of Frel to understand and appreciate this one. There were very much so times in this where I was like, wait, do I know this person from this thing? Do I know this person from this thing? And then I would go on this big old long, like, digging through every page of Ella Enchanted or Fairest and being like, oh, are they here? And it's like, oh, no, this is a whole new character. Sit down, read the book, enjoy it for what it is. So you get bonus content, you get Easter eggs if you've read the other books that take place in this world, but they are completely bonus. They're not required reading. This isn't like last time where I started at book 5 and was then like, whoopsie. No. This one is very much, you can start with this one. You could start with Ella. You could start with Fairest. It really doesn't matter. They're delightful. They're all delightful. So, Ogre Enchanted, as it says here, it's a companion novel to Ella Enchanted, but really that's, like I said, that's just bonus. The art is by Lisa Keene, and the design is by Erin Fitzsimmons and Catherine San Juan. And this time I had to do a whole separate page for them, and you will see why in a second. But this is currently the only cover for Ogre Enchanted, is this very pretty sparkly looking one. Also, if you get the hardcover, the book itself is purple, which is a delight for me. Big fan. So about the cover, like I said, I had to make a whole new slide for this, because A, I could find more information. So A, I could find more information, and B, they're kind of a big deal. Lisa Keene, who did the cover art, is a concept artist for Disney who has worked on Frozen and Tangled. She has done, she was the background supervisor for Beauty and the Beast, the animated one. I would like to throw that out there. She worked as a background artist on various Disney Renaissance and newer uh, films. So she is a Disney artist, um, and she did the cover art for this. And then Erin Fitzsimmons is a senior art director for YA and adult fiction, including novels Night of the Witch and Vanishing Girls. Um, it's kind of impressive. She's been doing this for quite a while and is very good at what she does. And Catherine San Juan is a graphic designer who has worked on children's fiction like Sisters of the Neversea or Maya and the Lord of Shadows. And she's also done like cookbooks, like devotional books, things that need like a certain style and certain branding to go, but may need different particular covers, things like that. I found it very interesting that she does both cookbooks and fiction. That was kind of interesting to look at. Looking at several of her covers and going, oh, yeah, no, very versatile. It's kind of great. And then Gail Carson Levine. So this is a very bare bones, like this looks like almost nothing. And that's because I am familiar with the works of Gail Carson Levine. I am familiar with the fact that she does things like writing workshops for children at her local library. She talks at conferences. She writes a lot. She, oh gosh, I want to say she does like deadlifts, but I can't remember at the moment. But she's kind of awesome. In the best way. She's very much a awesome lady. She wrote Ella Enchanted, the 1998 Newbery Honor book, and it is what the movie was based off of. I'm not fond of the movie. I am one of those, oh, the book was better, except no, really, in this case, the book was much better. And she wrote the Princess Tales, which are short stories, which are retellings of a lot of Brothers Grimm stories. So, like, the one where the one sister helps an old lady and she gets gems that drop out of her mouth, and the one sister that doesn't, and she gets, like, frogs and spiders. And, like, it's a reimagining and retelling of those. So, like, who's really got the better end of that deal? And it's like, how would this work in reality? And it's never quite how you think it would. And then she also wrote the Disney fairy novels. So, why can't I've read all of them. They're all fantastic. Hang on. Hang on. I've got to find it again. Where are they? There it is. Fairy Dust and the Quest for the Egg, Fairy Haven and the Quest for the Wand, and Fairies and the Quest for Neverland. But they all came out around the time that the whole Disney Fairies thing was kicking off. So when the Disney Fairies MMO was kicking off, when the Tinkerbell movies were kicking off, these were the novels that she wrote for that. Oh, and now this is gonna throw a hissy fit, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is. Okay, so what do you need to know going into Ogre Enchanted? Number one, it's a retelling. So much like Ella Enchanted is a reimagining of Cinderella, and Ferris is a reimagining of Snow White. This is also a retelling of a fairy tale. In this case, it is a Portuguese fairy tale, I believe. Let me double check that. Yes. So it's a reimagining of a Portuguese fairy tale. It's heavy on magic. It is called Ogre Enchanted. You saw that cover. If that doesn't scream, hey, here there be magic. What is love? The answer is not, baby, don't hurt me, but you'll see, you'll see. It is a major theme of the whole thing. And then it's just people, and um, that's very special to me. Every book I've read by Gail Carson Levine has made me cry. So, yay! This one did too. But it's not because the books are actually sad. In fact, normally I'm crying at the happy parts or at the weird tense moments because they're just people. And she writes people so well. It doesn't matter what supernatural elements are there. It doesn't matter what kind of magic is going on. You know people like this. You know people who are like ogres. You know the people who are like the elves. You know people who are like the main characters. Like, you've met these people. You've seen these interactions. You know this is how people act. And it's really nice to see. So your main character is Evie, or Evie. I'm probably going to call her Evie. I didn't have a pronunciation guide, and I am aware that this name can go either way. And since no one in this particular story decided to make rhymes out of the main character's name, I'm just gonna go with it. She is a healer in her hometown of Jen. And it's implied that she may not be the only healer, but she is the healer that will help anyone. She helps giants, she'll help humans, she'll help elves. So she will help everyone. She believes that 14 is too young to be married. She's very opinionated, very much has no interest in marriage. She's busy. She's healing people and learning more about healing and finding better and new ways to heal people. And worrying about about getting Purpline, which is dragon urine, but has healing properties. So in chapter 1, so this is very much not a spoiler, it happens very much in chapter 1, her best friend proposes, and that attracts the attention of the fairy Lucinda. So the fairy Lucinda, she's incredibly powerful. All of the fairies are incredibly powerful in this world. But she is less judicious, let's say, with her uses of power. She thinks that all the gifts she gives are perfect and all of her curses are very arbitrary and quite honestly just as horrible as her gifts. And because Evie, her reaction to her friend proposing is, "Why are you ruining our friendship?" She gets cursed by Lucinda to be an ogre for, I believe it's 62 days. And if in that time she is proposed to and accepts the proposal, she'll be returned to her human form. Otherwise, oh no, you're an ogre forever. Tough tootsies. And the limit is at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon because Lucinda doesn't think it's gonna happen. She thinks Evie is terrible and doesn't deserve it, and how dare you scorn love, and that is her whole thing, is love is wonderful and love is beautiful and you said no to this proposal, so you must be the worst. I mean, never mind that the girl didn't want to marry him. No. Why would such trivial things as what she wants to do bother Lucinda? So it is a retelling. It is inspired by The False Prince and the True, which again is a Portuguese fairy tale, um, that I would summarize for you. Except it's literally a variation of it is told inside the book itself at one point. So yeah, spoilers. I'm not saying. Um, but it's a very interesting take because like from the 1,000 foot view, if you zoom all the way out, you look at it and you go, "Oh, it's Beauty and the Beast." Of course it is. And then it's like, no, no, it's not. Um, it's not Beauty and the Beast. I mean, first of all, the girl is the one who has the problem. Um, second of all, that's not entirely the be all end all of the tale. That is the big magicy bit of this tale, but that's not what the whole thing is about. It is one of those stories where you don't need to know the source material to enjoy it. Um, so it says right on the copyright page that it's inspired by The False Prince and the True, which is a Portuguese tale. And I read that and I'm like, I don't know this story. I'm not going to read it ahead of time because that might spoil the plot of the book. And then I read the book, and then I went and read the fairy tale, and I'm like, oh, this is told literally inside the story. I'm so glad I didn't read it ahead of time. So I do recommend reading it, but I might wait until after you read the book to read it and see what she kept, what she changed, and how she elaborated on that one. So magic. This whole story begins with healing, both magical and mundane, love, and a fairy with more magic than sense. Again, that fairy is Lucinda. Evie is all into the healing, and her best friend who proposes to her, Wormy, yeah, he starts the conversation on love, and then it gets carried throughout the story by Evie. That being said, the magic is almost normal, and not in a sense of everyone has it, not everyone can use it. Like, it's magic is still a big deal, but it's also like common knowledge. Like, cool. It's almost like just travel in the sense of, yeah, everyone can, everyone knows it exists, but not everybody can afford to travel, or not everybody can have the time to travel, or not everybody has the health to travel. But like, it's a thing. We all know what travel is. That's very much how the magic is in this, of not everyone can do it, not everyone has seen it even, but like everyone's like, yeah, no, that's magic, it happens on a somewhat regular basis, just not necessarily to me type thing. Like, fairies are known, elves are known, ogres are known, giants are known, and like, it's nice to see magic treated as something common, almost like extremely powerful, and not to be used lightly, but also like, yeah, that's a thing that happens. Yeah, ogres are persuasive. That's a kind of magic they have. Everyone knows that ogres are bad news. Wouldn't it be a shame if your main character was an ogre? Oh boy. So what is love? Um, so Evie considers different kinds of love and what she is feeling fairly often in the book. Um, like it starts very early. She loves healing. She loves rabbits. Uh, she loves Wormy as a friend. She loves her mother. Um, but for none of that is she like, oh, but I am in love. No. She's like, meh, I don't need that. I'm too young. We're too young. It's too young for any of that nonsense. I've got my whole life ahead of me. That can wait. I can wait for love. So there is a lot of internalization in this. Gail Carson Levine does a great job of getting inside the mind of your POV character, in this case Evie. And for me, it's very much not in a annoying, preachy way. Because that's not who Evie is. She would like to be called certain things. She would like to not be treated like a monster. She would like to be able to help people. But she's also aware, and this will go into the next one. She's also aware of what she looks like. She looks like an ogre. Ogres are monsters and terrifying and not nice and eat people. Like, straight up, ogres eat people. So it's just people. Evie learns very quickly after being transformed that no matter how nice and helpful she is, that her appearance, that being an ogre, works against her. If this sounds a bit like Fiona from Shrek, it's a bit like that, only worse, because Evie doesn't always hide the ogre bits. Like, sometimes yes, but not always. And sometimes she's very much, I can help. Like, ignore everything else. I can help. I'll make perfume. I can help. She is very much a healer first and foremost. That's what she wants to do. She does see the reverse happen with another character who is trusted because of how they look and how persuasive they are, how well they can speak, how well they seem to empathize. They are very much a liar McLiar face. And she knows that and tries to convince people otherwise, and they just don't believe her, because why would they believe her? She's an ogre. And this person is extremely persuasive and good looking and must be telling the truth. It's this quiet little dose of reality and humanity dropped in the middle of your fairy tale. In much the same way that the people are people. So there are elves, there are giants, as I've said, and it doesn't matter that none of them are human. Like, there are humans as well, but the non-human races, even though they function by different rules, because they aren't human, and that is something that you cannot ignore in the story, is that the unhuman races are not human. They're not human. They are people. And you can look at how the people are treated and how how othering something as simple as appearance is. And it's like, oh, I feel that. So, my recommendations, and these, real talk, all of my recommendations this time are kind of dear to me. I don't have an easier way to say that. So the first one is Beauty by Robin McKinley. It is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, as the name would imply. It is not her only retelling of Beauty and the Beast. She has others. She has several retellings of Sleeping Beauty. Yeah. Beauty is perhaps the most basic. And I say that not as a judgment, but as a product of its time. It doesn't do anything quippy or clever to disguise that it is a retelling. There's not an extra element of gotcha to it, like there is in Ogre Enchanted, like there are in a lot of retellings. There's none of that's there. It is the most straightforward retelling on this list. Snow White and Rose Red is a retelling of that fairy tale. It does have a couple of twists in it. By Patricia C. Reed. So, real talk, I picked the most normal of the Patricia C. Reed books that I could have gone with. A lot of hers are Russian folklore. She has a lot of Firebird imagery, which is very much the Russian folklore of the Firebird. If there are wolves, be polite, don't get eaten, that kind of thing. But this one is a bit more normal as far as that goes. East is a retelling of... Oh, I'm gonna get it backwards. East of the sun and west of the moon? East, hang on. Hang on. Let me make sure. Yes, East of the Sun and West of the Moon, which is a Norwegian folktale. It is, how do I explain this without giving it away? It will seem very familiar to anyone who knows any Greek mythology or any French fairy tales. But that's not solely what it is. It's a bit like Cinderella in that there's a Cinderella from just about everywhere in the world. This will very much give you a similar vibe, just not with Cinderella, and I really don't want to give it away. It's a great book. If you like spirited girls, if you like polar bears, if you like impossibilities, is a good way to say it. East is a lot of fun. It is chunky. It is not a I can sit down and read this in 2 hours kind of book, unless you're a speed reader. If you're a speed reader, absolutely you can. That being said, I didn't mention how easy this book was. This book is very easy to read. I'm so sorry, I forgot about that. Ogre Enchanted is a very easy read. It is a children's novel. It doesn't dumb down the words at all, so the words are just as complicated as they would be for an adult novel. But they're written in such a way that it's very easy, it's very conversational. I did not binge this book in one day because I started reading it in the afternoon and then I was like, I can't stop. No. Someone else. And then the last one on this list is Nobody's Princess. So this is part of a series. It is part of the Princesses of Myth. And that is a very special series. Because it's a bunch of duologies. You're familiar with trilogies. You're familiar with sets. Duologies means pair. There's 2 books. And so this series is more than 2 books, but each chapter in the series, I don't quite know how she chooses to describe it, but each one is a duology. So Nobody's Princess is one of them, and this is another series where you can read any duology, regardless of order. You just need to read Princess before whatever the second one is. Nobody's Princess is a retelling of the story of Helen of Troy. Oh, I knew I was gonna forget to look up. Hang on. Hold please. I'm very sorry. You're gonna hear clickety clack as I use my Google Foo as quickly as possible. Oh gosh, that's not how this is spelled. Nobody's Princess. Is this the one? I'm sorry, I can't reach this one. This one is further back on my this is further back on my bookshelf and I can't reach it. I am making sure which one this is because I do read them back to back frequently. Okay, this is that one. Okay. So, I'm very sorry about that. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute, these books bleed together and my brain hurts. So Nobody's Princess also introduces you to people like the Oracle of Delphi and Atalanta and jerks like Theseus. It's a very interesting retelling where Helen is not a villain. She doesn't want to be left behind. She doesn't just want to be a girl. And it's not that she doesn't want to be a girl. Like, let's be real. She is still Helen of Troy. Aphrodite is still her favorite goddess. But she doesn't understand why girls are pigeonholed, and then she meets the Oracle, and then she meets Atalanta, and it's like, oh, you don't have to be. And wouldn't it be nifty if Helen of Troy was just, like, boys who needs them? So that is Nobody's Princess. It's a really good time. It's a bit on the nose. I think it's the first book I read where Theseus is an absolute jerk. Oh, now my computer hates me. Hang on. There we go. So, these 4 are all very special to me. I will quite happily recommend all of them. At some point, some of these may show up as their own book talk review things, because I have very strong feelings about them. So starting at the top, these are all dealing with magic as either common or as known. So that's what all of these run off of. Three more than the other. So the first one is Sandry's book by Tamora Pierce. Tamora Pierce is another one of those authors that every time something new comes out, I go find it. I like her style. I like her characters. It's delightful and wonderful. Sandry's book is the first book in a series, but it is also the first book in a quartet. So this series, as it stands today, is two quartets. And then you've got one sequel to the second quartet. You've got one that takes place in between the second quartet and the sequel. One that takes place simultaneously with the sequel. And one that's in the pipeline that I'm desperately waiting for it to actually be written and come out. But all of them deal with magic is an everyday occurrence. It is very much normal. And the particular main characters in the book, it follows four, so you do jump between four different perspectives. They all have, it's called ambient magic. It's magic in the common things. So Sandry, who the book is named after, is a thread mage. She's a stitch witch. You've got one who deals with plants. You've got one who deals with weather is the easiest way to put it. And then you've got one who deals with metal and fire. And all of them, the magic is outside of them. The ability to control is within, but the magic itself is outside. And so that's a wonderful book about family. What is family? Does blood really matter? Why does no one like me, and why is the world against me? And blah, blah, blah. It's wonderful. The magic is just great in that one. Hotel Magnifique is the odd man out in this book, in this list. Hotel Magnifique magic is known, but it is not common. In fact, it is very rare and is mostly contained to the hotel. It's a bit of a mystery novel, not exactly, but there's not a good other genre to shove it into. Where it deals with things, with like identity and power, contracts. What are you obligated to do? What have you fulfilled and no longer have to do? That kind of stuff. Very much power struggles and power dramas, and delightful magic that's like full of impossibilities. The whole hotel moves every night, and most of the story takes place within the hotel, so you never have to leave. Why would you want to? Another moving building, Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones, is it's so sarcastic. It's delightful. Again, it is technically, this one falls into retelling as well, because many of your characters follow the old tropes. You've got the three siblings, the beautiful one, the one who stays at home, and the one who goes on adventures. You've got cursed princes. You've got the Witch of the Waste. You've got wizards. and you have magic is a very normal thing to talk about. um, it's kind of feared universally, um, but it's very interesting because it does get into how not all magic has to be big and flashy. Some magic is small and quiet and insanely powerful. If you're familiar with the Miyazaki film, um, I someone oh, I wish I could remember where I saw it. I've seen a comparison between the Miyazaki film and the actual book, um, where the book is basically Sophie's perspective, and the movie is Howl's. Um, or vice versa. I don't remember which way that went. Anyway, point is, they're both wonderful. Sophie and Howl and Markle are vastly different people between the book and the movie, but not in a way that you're like, oh, this one completely ruined this character. No, they're not ruined. It's just a different interpretation. Like I said, I like the perspective that it's the same story told from Howl and Sophie's different perspectives. That's a nice way to put it. It's a really good book, and if you enjoy it, there are 2 sequels to Howl's Moving Castle. Sophie puts up with a lot. That's all I'm gonna say about the sequels. And the last one on here is So You Want to Be a Wizard by Diane Duane. This is if you want a little math and science in your magic. It takes place primarily in New York. And I have a bias. First of all, I have this in an omnibus. My omnibus is not called So You Want to Be a Wizard. My omnibus is called Support Your Local Wizard. So you might be able to find it that way. The other thing is that if you find a publication, I think she reworked it in 2002. So if you find anything prior to that, your first couple of books, your first book especially, will be a little different from the one I read. I'm sure you can figure out part of that because I just told you it's based in New York. But it follows Nita and Kit and becoming a wizard. Why do you want to become a wizard? Honestly, the reasons are kind of normal kid reasons, and then once they become wizards, it's like, here's the responsibility that goes with becoming a wizard. Here's what this really means. Are you sure this is what you wanted? Because you've already said yes. And very similar to Hotel Magnifique that deals with contracts, this deals with your words. It's another book that deals with what are names. Names are power. Hide your names. Layers of names is your defense. You meet a rather interesting car, and so you want to be a wizard. And like I said, it's some math in your wizardry, so your matter can neither be created nor destroyed still holds true. It has to come from somewhere. You have to be able to, even if the math would be impossible for a human to do, in that humans can't just like purify water on a whim. If hypothetically, if the right power was there, or if the right technology was there, and you can mathematically and scientifically explain it, magic can do it, then it becomes a problem of power. how much power is put into it, how much power the individual. It's a lot of fun. It is a very sciencey wizard book. I'm a huge fan of mixing your math and your science with your magic. It creates some very interesting situations. It creates some very interesting heroes and villains. Or in most of the So You Want to Be a Wizard, you have a singular antagonist. Who's sometimes called a duck. But that is that. Let's see if I could get boop and there we go. So I guess a little bit about the reason I like the Frel books, the reason I like books where people are people. I know that seems like duh, but I've read enough books to know that that's not always the case. I've seen enough TV shows, I've seen enough movies. People are not always people in art. Sometimes they are stand-ins for other things. The thing about Ogre Enchanted, the thing about Ella Enchanted, the thing about all of the Gail Carson Living books I've read, is that all of your people are just that. They are people. You don't really have to worry about, oh, well, this grand no. And you can see different groups, but those groups aren't super clear cut. Sometimes it's as simple as artists. Sometimes it's a little more complicated. Like I said, I think I've cried for every Gail Carson Living book I've read. And they've been good cries. So it's kind of... I don't normally cry if a book is bad. Maybe if it's unnecessary, I might. But if a book is bad, it doesn't usually drive me to tears. I don't have enough emotional investment in a book that I consider bad to cry over it. Like, again, why cry? I don't really care about you. That's not the case for these books. I care about the characters, even the dumb ones. Like, I don't like Lucinda. You're not supposed to like her. She's just kind of awful. But I care about the world. And what she does affects the world. It's one of those things. So the other book, the easiest book to go to from Ogre Enchanted is Ella Enchanted, simply because they do both take place immediately in Frel. They have the most overlapping characters. My tracking has gone off again. Hang on, let me see if I can fix that. There we go. So those two are the closest. This one does take place before Ella Enchanted in the timeline. I guess that's not really a huge spoiler, but spoiler? It's really nice. Like I said, I like the ones that make me cry, as weird as that sounds. I know that sometimes drives my sister nuts. When it's like, what are you doing? You're crying. Why are you crying? Well, I was reading this book and stuff happened. But yes, a great many good books make me cry. Not all good books have to make me cry, but it's not uncommon for them to. Especially the ones like this that don't take cheap shots. Like, I'll cry at cheap shots. I'll cry at commercials. But this one is super nice. I would also recommend, so on the line of things that are derivative but not exactly retellings, the Ever After High novels are kind of a whole jam. They're really well written, and it's fun. It's fun to see. Hey, your main villains have done their villainy and now somehow have kids. This makes more sense with the heroes, but the villains always seem to get them too. And now the children are destined to follow in their parents' footsteps, and inevitably they're all like, no. It's like, you lost, Mom. Why do I want to do this? So the Ever After High novels are very well written and very much in that vein. Oh, hang on. There's another one, and it's based off of a fairy tale that isn't super retold. The Goose Girl. The Goose Girl, and its entire series that comes after, but primarily that first one, is it's by the same author. That's where that connection came from. There's Shannon Hale. But it is a retelling of that story, and it is wonderful, and it is have you ever looked at a story and been like, that's a useless princess? Man, I wish there was a better princess. The Goose Girl is, hey, what if someone showed up and was like, yeah, you're a useless princess. I'm better than you. Go away or I kill you. And that's the inciting incident. Is she gets replaced. And then she kind of learns how to live. And it's nice. That's another book that makes me cry. To be fair, that book also has animals, and a whole bunch of animal books make me cry. Oh, if you want another book series that isn't really a series, so it is. There is a chronological order, but it's not necessarily it's not necessary to read them in chronological order. Is the Redwall series by Brian Jacques, and those are so all of them have character death in them, and kind of to the point of, if you go in knowing someone's going to die, it lessens the pain a little. But I have yet to successfully pick out the marked target from the beginning of the book. Almost every time I get gut punched. But those books are completely independent of each other. The only ones that are even closely linked are Redwall and Matameo. The others are all far enough apart, or they're all just telling different kinds of stories that they're far apart. Redwall and Matameo have a whole bunch of the same characters. It's a direct sequel. Um, I'm very glad that most of them aren't. Not because I have any problems with Matameo. Matameo is this perfectly acceptable story, but I like the fact that you don't have to read that massive library of Redwall books in order, because at least when I was reading them, the library didn't have them all in order. Inevitably, the one I needed would be checked out. So you could just grab whatever and keep track of which ones you had read and which ones you hadn't. And that's another thing. So, of the 3 books I've talked about so far, Ballad and Dagger, Mything Persons, and now Ogre Enchanted, it'll probably be easier to find Ballad and Dagger and Ogre Enchanted at a library, because they are newer. They're also more likely to be in a bookstore, but libraries are free, so take advantage of that. And a lot of libraries also have audiobooks, or they have ebooks, so take advantage of that too. But the problem with some of the older books is that libraries don't always hold on to them forever. If no one is reading them, if no one is checking them out, there's only so much space on the shelves, and so libraries do sometimes have to weed. And when they weed, usually, so peek behind the curtain. When most libraries weed, they go into a library sale, and then whatever is made on selling the books goes back into the library. So the books still do aid the library even when they're not being read in that sense. Library sales are also a great place to get books. I would always say check out a used bookstore. First of all, you never know what you're going to find. Second of all, it's usually for cheap. Thirdly, used books read just as well as new books. The running joke in my family is that you're not going to read the words off the page. The person after you will, if you're reading and the next person is like, I want to read that. She's not reading the words off the page. You'll get your chance. It's fine. So, yes, take advantage of anything you can to get things a little cheaper. Like I said, libraries, most of them are free. It's today! Yeah, it's today. You will be able to catch it on the replay. I got really excited about this one and talked really fast. So this one was Ogre Enchanted. It's a companion to Ella Enchanted. And like I was saying, I like everything Gil Carson Levine writes. Like, I don't think I've encountered one I don't. She has a new one out that's about the Trojan War. I'm looking forward to reading that one when I get my hands on it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That was my reaction of, ooh, Trojan War, ooh, Cassandra. I'm a big fan of that. I may have plans to do a certain book on the Trojan War. I know. Trojan War stuff is fun. No, I will say I do have plans in the future to do one on a... It's not about the Trojan War, but it's not about the Trojan War. I haven't figured out when I'm doing that one yet. I have all of May planned out. I have all of May planned out, and I have all of December planned out. Because who wants to plan things in order? That's silly. um, yeah, I was just saying that it might be easier to find the newer books that I've covered in the library, and then the older book you're more likely to find at a used bookstore. Um, and also, it may have been the fifth book in a series, so find the first four, maybe. We're just chaos. We're gonna make these plans. Are these plans in order? No. No. So, I know planning is so boring. It totally helps in the long run, though. So like I said, I do have all of May planned out, so at least I'm not, I'm not completely just like blindly pulling books off my shelves. Although I could stick them on a wheel and spin the wheel and just read what comes up. Give me just a second. I thought my coffee would have cooled down by now. It has not. Who needs sleep? Oh, so what I was mentioning is that retellings are always fun. Um, I mentioned the Shannon Hale books. I mentioned the Ever After High books because those are not so much retellings, but they're variations. You've got the child of the Mad Hatter, you've got the child of the Evil Queen, you've got the child of Snow White. Those are your three main characters. And then you've got all your supporting cast. And by that token, I mean Percy Jackson falls into that too, where it's not technically Greek myths because, like, yeah, Perseus, ooh, but also he's not copying the myth exactly. And those are another set of books where it's just like the people are people. And that's always good. Do you have a favorite retelling? Like I said, I think I always like the Trojan War ones are interesting. They tend to go one of two ways. Either Helen is the worst thing ever and everything is her fault and she is insanely evil. Um, or, oh no, poor Helen, she can't be bad. She's pretty. Oh, not that you can think of. Oh, that's okay. Um, like I said, I always find it funny that no other stories can be told. It is either Helen is the cause of all evil, or Helen is pretty, can't be evil, is pretty. um, which is kind of funny because, like, the Greek myths, it's not Helen's fault. It's technically her husband's fault. Well, and Paris. Like, okay, back up. It's Paris's fault, but it's also her father and Odysseus's fault. Because they're the ones who made the whole if anyone, you know, Helen is my wife, if anybody tries to take her, or if we're going to war, you're all going to war with me. tough. Um, yeah, that whole deal. Um, yeah, so that's always a fun dichotomy there. Um, there are so many Beauty and the Beast retellings. Like, that seems to be one of the most. Beauty and the Beast and Sleeping Beauty are the two most popular retellings I've seen. There's a ton of them in all sorts of mediums. Um, and then you've got things that mix and match. So you've got things like Ever After High, which is a very much a mix and match. You've got heroes, you've got villains, you've got stories that don't touch each other because Alice in Wonderland has nothing to do with Snow White. You've even got things like Rooster Teeth's Ruby, which does have novels, but that too mixes. You've got the Wizard of Oz in there. You've got Little Red Riding Hood. Uh, you've got Goldilocks. Oh, there we go. You've got a whole bunch of fun retellings. Like, what if Little Red Riding Hood was socially awkward but good with weapons? Ruby. That's the answer to that. Ruby. Spindle's End is a Robin McKinley. I mean, yes. You're not entirely wrong. The thing is that yeah, they're fan fiction in the sense that they're playing in not their own sandbox. But the other thing is that they're not technically playing in anybody else's sandbox either. So, is it? Or is it just a reimagining? Well, I mean, that's not complete. Okay. I do see your point. Takes on, like, Alice in Wonderland, Little Mermaid, Peter Pan. Those are, in fact, somebody else's sandbox. That those all have authors and are truly someone else's. But like your Brothers Grimm stories, they collected the stories. They didn't write them. Like, they rewrote some of them. We know that for a fact. But like, these are oral traditions. They're gone. Well, they may not be. But I don't know. Like, that would require A, knowing German for me. I do not. And B, going somewhere that still practices the oral tradition. So in that sense, like, things that pull off of Sleeping Beauty, things that run off of Rumpelstiltskin or Snow White or I have forgotten the name of it. There is a very short Brothers Grimm story, and it's weird. But I haven't read an entire book based off of it, and like the short story is like half a page, or the Brothers Grimm is like half a page, and the novel is like 300. And I'm like, yes, I too can make a like 300-word story into a 300-page novel. Nope. No, those are always a lot of fun. Retellings and reimaginings are a lot of fun. Even if they aren't always my style, because like I don't like all of them, obviously. Nobody will. But it's fun to see people's takes on them. Like I said, that's why I think Beauty, despite being one of the earliest ones that I know of, is perhaps one of the most boring as far as a retelling. It's very well written, but it's very straightforward. Well, and honestly, playing in someone else's sandbox, it's interesting. So, like, everyone has opinions on fan fiction. Is it good? Is it bad? Does it confuse canon? The answer to that one is yes. If you read a lot of fan fiction, you do get canon confused sometimes. Um, but then you've got some that are like sanctioned fan fiction, where not necessarily a singular owner, yeah, but if it's a larger entity. So take the Forgotten Realms, which is owned by Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons, and it is where most many, let's clarify, many of the 5e books take place are in the Forgotten Realms. Well, multiple authors write Forgotten Realms novels with Wizards of the Coast's blessing and permission. And technically, like, their stories aren't fan fiction, but if they use the gods and the spells, they are. But they're sanctioned. Oh well, it's like R.A. Salvatore, who does Forgotten Realms novels, also wrote Star Wars novels before Disney purchased it. And he created the Yuzambong. Or he used them? Anyway, point being, he created a thing, and then it created a monster in the story. But he's not the only person who wrote Star Wars novels. And, like, all of those novels were, once upon a time, considered canon. And some of them read like fan fiction. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. Some fan fiction is fantastic. But sometimes you're like, oh, there's a rabbit bounty hunter whose spaceship is shaped like a carrot. What? Yes, R.A. Salvatore. So you may know him from me, quite honestly. Yes. He has written at least one of those. He also wrote the Dritz to Uden series, which I love Dritz. I really do. I will admit that every day. He's such a Mary Sue, it's not even funny, and we love him anyway. Especially in his first outing, um, he was the one good member of his race, and it's like, oh, everybody hates him except his friends, who all love him and think everybody should love him. It's like, that, my friends, is a Mary Sue. But he also has a cat, so we forgive him. We forgive everything with cats. Let's see. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can. I do this. There we go. I'm so sorry, there's something in my eye, so just ignore the winking for a second. There we go. Sorry. um, there are a lot of books turned movies that were talked about with this one. So, because Ogre Enchanted is connected to Ella Enchanted, I did mention I'm not a fan of the movie. part of that part of that is my bias towards books. I will always have that bias. Now there's something in my other eye. I will always have something of that bias, and I'll admit it. Something I have noticed is that if I see the movie before I read the book, I'm more likely to like both. Howl's Moving Castle is a exception to that rule, where I saw the movie, I found out there was a book, I read the book, I saw the movie again, and then I was like, I don't care about the differences. Ogre Enchanted, I will always say read the book. Like, I know the movie has some big names, and if you're okay with a bit more slapstick than is in the book, sure. But it's a little disingenuous in that it misses the spirit of the book. It misses the point. It really misses the point. But yeah, Howl's Moving Castle. Read it, watch it. It's great. I'm trying to think if there's another one what's like that for me. I saw the Jim Carrey Lemony Snicket movie way back when. And like, it was weird and creepy, but I hadn't read the book, so I had like no opinions. And then I read the books and I'm like, no, they insult me. Which one, the Lemony Snicket or Howl? Please tell me Howl. Please tell me you watched Howl. Ugh. Yes, Howl's Moving Castle is wonderful. Every single character in it is a delight. Calcifer is a personal favorite, right behind Howl and Sophie. But that's not saying much. Yes, so Lemony Snicket is one where I saw the movie. I was entertained, and then I read the books, and I'm like, I am not entertained. I don't like these. Yes, the bacon. There may have been attempts by me and many other people on the internet to learn how to crack eggs one-handed like Howl, because that is impressive and I want to be able to do that. Like, life goals, crack eggs like Howl. Look that good in a pied jacket, man. I guess. I hesitate. So, books turned movies. There are some that I hesitate on, not because I dislike them, but because they're both kind of big, and they're big for different reasons, and like how they're viewed in the modern era and how they were viewed then, they're sometimes different. But I guess I might as well mention it since one is coming out, if it's not already out, and that would be Dune. like, as someone who did in fact see the old version of Dune, don't watch it. Do not. It's bad. It's good for what it was. Like, I am not going to sit here and say it was not impressive at the time. The practical effects, very nice. The digital effects, oh gosh, why? I have seen a making of where they're like, this was very difficult to do. And it's like, well, yeah, because you're taking something from literature where your words can paint impossible pictures and trying to make them real. And that's the problem with, I think, every book turned movie to some extent. Even the ones I love, even Howl. My family, half of my family loves Dune. Half of my family hasn't read it. Guess which part I am. But it's a good example, actually. The old, slightly scarring 80s Dune movie. Look, you want a definition of an 80s movie? Dune. But it's a pretty good example of the problem that I think all transformations from a written medium to a visual medium have. And to some extent, it's the problem of transitioning things from screen to stage. As I've said in the past, that I greatly enjoy the fact that there are so many musicals these days, but translating things from one medium to another, stuff gets lost in translation. I'm pretty sure I know which one you're talking about. I still don't think that's as 80s. It is, but not as hard. Dune has, I believe it's Sting. It is one of those gentlemen. I can look that up. Hang on. Tonight is the night where Chryseus uses a lot of the Google. Dune. Not part 2. The 80s. 1984. Oh dear. Hang on, and I can tell you who's in it. It is Sting. I was right. Why was Patrick Stewart in it? Sir, please, no. But yes, no, Dune had Sting. But yes, that is the problem with changing mediums. Especially because a lot of books tend to be from a singular perspective and not from an omniscient perspective. Which means you get the benefit of knowing how your main character thinks. Well, if you put it in a movie, you either get a whole bunch of very boring narration. What joy. Or you have to find another way to give us either that information, you cut it out entirely, or if there's like important like backstory knowledge that you're supposed to have, finding a different way to like shoehorn it in. Like, hey, new person at school, did you hear about the family of vampires that lives in town? Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Twilight's what popped in my head. As a variant. Although I think that one has narration too. Ooh, Leonard Nimoy. You may win just because of that. sorry. Look, I was thinking of one that had a heavy internal monologue, and that was the only one that popped to my mind, because it's pretty heavy-handed on the monologuing. But yeah, a lot of things that have, that don't have, I should say, an omniscient view, um, are difficult. Ender's Game. Ender's Game is another multi-perspective, so in the one hand, that's good. In the other hand, those perspectives are very locked in the novel. So you really didn't know anything more than your character knew, whichever character you were following. It's the benefit of literature. So I will bring this up now because it will come up in next time, so in 2 weeks, which is not pulling up calendar. Why? Well, this is embarrassing. Hang on. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm like, wait. Wait, next week is important for me and I can't. Or not next week, 2 weeks is important for me and I can't. Math. Thank you. So on the 17th, I will be discussing a book that I own the physical. I have read the physical. I have loved it. But in efforts to be fair and broaden my horizons, and also because I'm a huge nerd, I am listening to the audiobook. So there will be some discussion about audiobooks next time. Your preemptive warning is I don't generally do audiobooks. Oh, excuse me a moment. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I didn't click mute. I'm so sorry I sneezed at you. Thank you. I don't normally do audiobooks. They aren't my preferred medium. I'm not gonna say, oh, they're inferior. They're not. They're a great opportunity and a great way to read. When you're doing other things, like, let's be completely honest, life is hard. Sometimes you have to multitask. But they're not my preferred. I've listened to Dracula as an audiobook. I've listened to something else as an audiobook, so this is like my third. But in the effort of fairness, I decided, let's do another audiobook. And when you find out what it is, you'll very much understand why I picked this one to do as an audiobook. I'm biased, and I'm talking about the books I want to talk about. So, that being said, I said I have plans for the month of May. I have plans for December. I have most of spooky season already planned out. But if there is a particular book that you're like, no, you have to talk about this one, let me know. I'll see. If I can get my hands on it easily, I may talk about that one. If I already own it, even better. um, I do have a few shelves of books that I'm not doing for a while. Not that I will never do them, but that they're on the they'll happen later list. Um, I will try. So I'm trying to rotate between intended target audience per the publisher as opposed to per mine, because my opinion is adults should read all of these. Period. End of discussion. Um, because books that buck the stereotype, books that encourage you to think critically, hey, those are children's books a lot of the time. Read them. But I am trying to do a rotation between children, teen, and young adult, or children, young adult, and adult. Next time it will be adult. I'm very excited. I will get to nerd out again. I say that. I think I'm gonna nerd out every time. This week was a treat because I loved the author. Next time is going to be a treat for a whole different reason. And it's going to be an audiobook. So I may talk a bit about that as well. Kind of like how for this one I had an extra special slide for the cover artists and the cover designers because they were kind of a big deal. I may do a separate slide for the audiobook because the reader is kind of a big deal. And since I've admitted that I'm using the audiobook for this one, that I'm going off of that, I don't see any point in being like, no, I'm not going to talk about the medium I listen to. That's just silly. Yes. Let's see. Hints? I can give hints. Let's see. How do I want to do this? It's going to be I'm such a dork. It's going to be a bit more critical than this one was. Let's just say it that way. Oh, the other thing. So, all of the books I recommended for magic this time, I didn't mention it on the retellings. Most of the retellings are girl centric, because frequently the stories that get retold are your princess type stories. Oh, hush you. But all of the magic suggestions here, let me bring them back up. Oh, why did they not appear? Problems. I've got them. Ha! There they are. All of these have at least one male and one female main character. Sandry's book is an even split of gents to ladies. Oh no, it's not. There's 3 girls to 1 boy in that one. But when you factor in, look, when you factor in the teachers, it's an even split. Um, Hotel Magnifique is has a 1-to-1. Howl's Moving Castle. Your main characters are Howl and Sophie. Although, to be fair, you do mostly follow Sophie, so it is a little leaning towards girl, but your titular character is the castle. Let's be real, it's the castle. And then, so you want to be a wizard. Nita is a girl, and Kit is a boy. Oh, you missed it earlier. These are all highly recommended from me. I really like all of these. Uh, any of these may show up at a future date as their own thing because I like them so much. So, yes. So let me turn those back off. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, they're all really good. Like I said, they're all magic is a normal everyday occurrence. They're all super fun. Um, most of them are a bit adventure-y. One of them is modern. Oh, did I mention? I said it took place in New York. So You Want to Be a Wizard is more modern than the others. The others are all like fantasy-ish in the sense of their old world feeling. But So You Want to Be a Wizard is modern-ish. I have to say ish because I haven't read the rewrites. Yes. And that is one, if you find an earlier edition. Yeah, it's going to be a little different. So yes, so on the 17th will be the next one. I still haven't figured out how to make the rooms early, so I'm very sorry that these like show up 5 minutes before everything starts. I'm learning. And yes, that one will be a bit more critical. That's probably going to be it for tonight. I was very excited and covered the book very quickly. I'm so sorry. It's something I've learned is that I desperately don't want to spoil these because I want you to be able to enjoy them. But some of the things I want to like gush about are just the biggest spoilers. It's like, oh yes, and then X happened, and then Y happened, and then Z said this. It's like, I can't do any of that. The next one will be a bit easier to talk about. I say that now. I thought this one was going to be easier. It was easier. Well, I will attempt to not start in the middle of a series again. That one was very difficult to talk about. So I will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for coming. I hope you had a good evening. You can wind down. Hope this has all been chill. I'm sorry about sneezing very loudly. And I'll see you next time.